Hello again, Marvin Kilborn here, retired public school teacher. This video is going to be about teacher contracts. I know, probably sounds boring. We'll see how it goes. Pretty much any time you get hired on a job, whether or not you sign some kind of contract, when you first start, you're on probation, some kind of probationary period, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, possibly 3 or 6 months, maybe even as much as a year. Very few jobs require you to be on probation for a whole year. Now, teachers have essentially two different kinds of contracts. We have probationary contracts, which is for the first year or brand new teacher, and then we have term contracts. Now, essentially, teachers are on yearly contracts. There's no really such thing as a permanently employed teacher. But once you get offered a term contract, it's kind of like being permanent. It's a little harder to get rid of you. Probationary teachers, on the other hand, have very few rights. Probationary contracted teacher, according to the Texas Education Code, can be terminated at any time for any reason or no reason at all. Now, in my experience, and certainly my opinion, the probationary teacher contract is the most corrupt, misused teacher employment tool that there is. Because while every job or most jobs require some kind of probationary period, in the teaching profession, and at least in Texas, and most states work the same way, but in Texas, your first 3 years are on probationary contracts. So the district gets 3 years to evaluate you to determine whether or not they want to offer you a term contract. That's insane. Why would it take 3 years for an employer to determine whether you're good enough to be permanently employed or at least offered a more permanent type contract? Are these people stupid? Well, yeah, they are stupid, but the Texas Education Code is the law which governs how public schools operate, how teachers are handled, how students are handled. I mean, pretty much every single aspect of public education is governed by the Texas Education Code. So the code dictates that the first 3 years will be on a probationary status. And each year you're offered a new probationary contract for the next year. And you're kind of hoping, most people would kind of like to be permanently employed. So you're hoping that at some point the district will offer you a term contract. The funny thing is while the code requires that the first 3 years be probationary, the district can also offer you a 4th year of probation in lieu of offering you a term contract. And essentially, according to the code, a district can offer you a probationary type contract every single year if they want. But after the 4th year, it's up to the teacher as to whether or not to accept that contract. I haven't seen that happen very often, but it does on occasion. So you might be asking, why would it take 3 years, or why would we have a teacher be forced to stay on probation for 3 whole years? I mean, while no other job in the world requires any employee to be on probation for that long. So why do they do it? Well, the easy answer is it makes it a whole lot easier to get rid of people. Public education is somewhat flighty, and by that I mean there's a lot of turnover in public education. And one of the most disruptive things that can happen to a district and or a school is to get new principals, new administration. But this happens quite often. And even more disruptive to a school than getting a new principal or a new superintendent is whenever a new athletic director is hired. And this happens pretty often too. Athletic directors tend to only last 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and then they move on somewhere else and a new guy comes in. And the athletic director, as I said in another video, is really just a fancy term for head football coach, because that's essentially all they do. This is Texas. Football is not just a sport here. It's not just a athletic activity. Football is a religion in Texas. And we have over 1,200 school districts, and all these districts want to have state championship winning football teams. And believe you me, if a head football coach comes into a district, especially smaller districts. If he ain't winning games on Friday nights, he's going to be looking for another job pretty quick. My last school district actually went through 4 athletic directors in 4 years. So I mean, they were just churning through these people. Problem is, anytime they bring in a new athletic director, a lot of times, since he is the head football coach, he has all these other coaches that work for him or work for him at another district. So when he comes in, oftentimes he wants to bring his own crew in with him. Well, his own crew is going to come in and have to replace teachers and or coaches that are already at the district he's coming into. So this is the main reason why teachers are required to spend 3 years, or new teachers 3 years on probation, because they're very easy to get rid of. According to the Texas Education Code, probationary contracted teachers can be terminated at any time for any reason or no reason at all. And the language that's used, and normally principals will do this like right before spring break, they'll either call you into their office, or they may even come to your classroom, and all they say is, in the best interest of the district, we won't be asking you to return next year. No reason given. You're just basically just being told you're out of work next year. You're going to be looking for another job. So, hey, enjoy spring break. Have a nice vacation. This actually, I've seen it happen a lot of times over my 15-year career, and it actually happened to me in one district. It was my 4th district to work for, and I was entering my 5th year of teaching, and I was employed by Henderson ISD. And oh yeah, on another subject, the ISD stands for Independent School District, but honestly, here in Texas, they really ought to be, it ought to stand for sports. It ought to stand for Independent Sports District. And because in Texas, and at least at the high school level, in my experience, athletics definitely takes precedence over any academic activities. Kids are gone from class a lot to participate in sporting events, basketball tournaments, track meets, cross country, whatever. They're gone a lot. If you don't believe me, ask any Texas high school teacher and they'll tell you that sports takes precedent. So they really ought to just be called independent sports districts. And maybe they really are, but according to the code, it's independent school districts. Anyway, back to Henderson. When I accepted a job in Henderson, it was going to be my 5th year of teaching, and it's my 4th school district. So certainly that very first year was going to be on a probationary contract again. But according to the code, the district could then turn around and offer me, when I return the next year, it could also offer me another probationary contract. But as I said earlier, districts can offer you probationary contracts every single year if they want. It's up to you as to whether or not to accept it. But my first year in Henderson was awesome. Loved teaching there. I was a member of an 8-person math department. I was one of 2 Algebra 1 teachers. Just had a great year. Loved it there. I would have loved to have just stayed there for the rest of my career. It was really a good place to work. So my first year went by, and at the end of that year, the athletic director, the head football coach, decided to leave and go to another district. So the district hired a new athletic director to finish the year and certainly to start the next year. What's interesting is the district, when they offered me a contract to return, even though they could have and should have offered me a term contract to return because I had met the requirements for them to do that, they used a loophole in the Texas Education Code to go ahead and offer me a probationary contract to return. Partly because I really didn't know much better at that point. I wasn't aware of the legal aspects of public education. I was just happy to get a contract and happy to be returning to Henderson High School. So I took the contract and signed it and returned. And again, I had two outstanding, fantastic years there. My second year in Henderson, they'd also hired 2 other brand new math teachers. These young men were Henderson High School graduates. They had only graduated from Henderson High School 4 years earlier, went off, got their math degrees, became teachers, came back, and now they're teaching in the same high school they had graduated from just 4 years earlier. Well, the day before spring break of my second year, and I keep in mind, everything went great. I had never done anything wrong. I was never reprimanded. By all accounts, everything was great. My teacher evaluations were about the best you can get. But my principal called me into his office and said, Mr. Kilborn, please sit down. So I sat down. He looked at me and he goes, this is a really hard decision. It's been a hard decision for me. But Mr. Kilborn, in the best interest of the district, we won't be asking you to return next year. Now, I was flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted. I was like, well, if you're going to fire somebody, and that's essentially what you're doing when you're not renewing a teacher, you're essentially firing him, even though they don't really use that language. But I want to know why. So I said, why? What happened? He just said, again, in the best interest of the district, we won't be asking you to return next year. I said, no, man. You got to tell me. I need to know, what did I do? Why am I being let go? In the best interest of the district. They're like parrots. They're like robots. They don't explain anything, which is one of the problems with public education. They'll let you go and they don't have to explain anything to you. So you just know you're out of work, you're going to be looking for a new job, but you have no idea what you may have done. Well, in my case, what had happened was when this new athletic director, this head football coach came in, during his second year, he decided he needed or wanted another coach. So what that required, that was going to require the school to convert another teaching position into a teaching/coaching position. They picked the math department because we had 3 probationary contract teachers. We're the easiest ones to get rid of. And they got rid of me because, well, basically it was easier to get rid of me. I wasn't a Henderson High School graduate. I was an outsider. And Henderson had already made it pretty clear to me that Henderson takes care of its own. Actually, tons and tons of people that work in that district are from Henderson or graduated from the Henderson High School. So that's what had happened to me. Was a new athletic director came in, head football coach, decided he wanted another coach. So they converted my position into a teacher/coach position. And since it didn't matter that I was a retired military veteran, it didn't matter that I had 6 years of experience where these other boys only had 1, it came down to, hey, you're probationary, you're not one of us, so long, dude. Look for another job. Really, really sucks, but that's public education. That's just how it's set up. Again, as I've said before, I'll say it again. I wouldn't recommend anybody join this profession. It's horrid. It's horrible the way it's set up. And I didn't mention this earlier, but here's something that's really funny. Which I guess it's funny with probationary contracts. While a teacher, a first-year teacher or brand new teacher, has to spend 3 years, at least 3 years on probation, you only have to serve as a certified teacher for 2 years to become a principal, to become an administrator. That's insane. So in less time than it takes for a district to determine whether or not to keep you, they can make you a principal. Absolutely insane. Anyway, that's teacher contracts, and that's it. So if you've been watching my videos, again, I appreciate it very much. If you want to leave a comment, go ahead. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, go ahead. But thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.